Thank you all. Thank you all so much for coming today. This fills my heart. There are so many of you here, and I know there are multiple campuses represented here, so that's really exciting as well. Thank you so much for being here. First things first, can you hear me okay? Okay, can you see both boards okay from where you're sitting? Yes? Good. Do I need to do a little bit of this action for y'all over there? There's a large population on this side. I think it's the windows, the sunlight is a draw. Well, welcome. Today we talk about behavior challenges and what to do when you don't know what to do. And some of this stuff up here is going to just act as a model for the day, but let me just give you a rundown of where we're going for the day. Right now I'm welcoming you here. And by the way, I was looking for, or I should say Phil was looking for adhesive magnets, and we didn't have them, so here are the nice Faith Kids magnets, holding our things in place. Go Faith Kids. And then I'm going to pass it off to Phil just to talk about our reliance on the Spirit and on prayer. And then after that, I'm going to be talking about all sorts of things, expectations, being positive, how to respond to negative behavior, helpful tools to decrease negative behaviors. I'm going to talk a little bit about CPI, which is Crisis Prevention Institute. I'll tell you all about it. It's really good stuff. And then we'll leave some time at the end for questions. And then here's the best part. You get to go home at the end. And I'll tell you right now, there is, for people who are very concrete learners, which kids are very concrete learners, and as we grow up, we get, our skills of inference and being able to understand the gray and abstract things a little bit. But especially people with autism are very, very concrete learners, okay? And if you have autism and you're in the room, and I don't have a schedule for us, or I don't tell you where we're going, or that we will actually go home, you might actually think in your mind right now that you're not going home. Which is why, yeah, it's kind of funny, but it's true. If I don't have this, if I don't tell you there will be an end to this morning, you have no idea how long you're going to be here for. So, we're going home at the end, okay? Please, go home at the end of this. All right, first of all, my name is Vinny. I know some of you are from Faith Kids and from other campuses, so I don't get to interact with you all very much, but I know you're wonderful and amazing. And so for those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Vinny, and I oversee the disability ministry at Faith Church called Reflectors. And I taught for 2 years at Elam Christian Services, a group of middle school students. And then before that was a special ed and elementary ed major at Trinity. So really those were the years that I picked up a lot of this stuff. And really my 2 years at Elam were the 2 most formative years for a lot of this stuff. And so I hope that it's helpful. But here are some things to know as we get started. First of all, thank you. I already said it, but thank you for being here and investing in this. And here's the thing. This is not easy. Okay. We can talk about behavior strategies, but at the end of the day, dealing with negative behaviors is hard. Okay. You can leave with all sorts of tools in your tool belt from this day, and guess what? It'll still be hard. Okay? So I'm not promising you. It's kind of like Jesus. I thought it was really wise of Jesus when he said, in this world you will face troubles. Thank you, Jesus, for telling us that, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. So take heart. There's good, at the end of the day, this is about kids, and this is about their life. This is about their souls. This is about pouring into them and letting them know that Jesus loves them and that we love them. But just know that it's never going to be easy, ever. We want to try to make it easier. It's not one-dimensional. Negative behaviors, there are always going to be multiple components, okay? Rarely is it ever just one thing that you can go in and fix. There's going to be all sorts of different components to think about, and we're going to talk about all sorts of different components today. But even with each individual person, it's not one-dimensional, nor is it one-size-fits-all. Again, a lot of these things are going to help with an overall environment, setting an overall environment that's going to help every kiddo. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of individualization that's going to need to take place. Not everything works or fits for every kiddo. And that's it. So, before we get into the nitty-gritty, here's True Confessions from Elam. It's a Christian organization, but there were always some who were so reliant on stats and science and best practices and all that stuff. And we always had to kind of say, this is all good. This is all really good stuff. But at the end of the day, we have an advantage as the people of God. And that is the Holy Spirit. Because we can apply all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we need God's help desperately. And we have this gift to tap into He is for us and He is with us. And so Phil is going to come up and for those of you who don't know Phil, I'm sure you all know Phil. He'll introduce himself. But Phil's just going to talk about that piece of it to get us started. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Vinny. I got my reflector shirt on this morning, so I'm a big fan. Yeah, I saw that. You got just a little covered up there, so I don't know about that.
Sorry.
I'm not going to assume all of you know me. I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And as we were talking about the behavior training, Vinny's right on. We had a bottom line once in Faith Kids that went something like this. Do everything you can do and trust God to do the rest. My 13-year-old daughter, probably since the time she was 3, I've had guys in my life pray for my relationship with her because we just butted heads all the time. She got all my stubbornness and all her mom's good looks. And so when that came to discipline, man, it just did not work well for me at all. And the biggest thing that changed all of that, it wasn't everything I knew about education because I taught for 10 years. It was my heart. The Lord has made me a humbler person through His Spirit. And you know what? That's changed my relationship with my daughter. Not that this past week she probably didn't want to murder me at some point. And not like this past week I didn't want to just, are you kidding me? You cannot be serious right now with all this drama. That's still going to happen. But there comes a point now where the Spirit comes in and just humbles one of us. And either she'll come to me and say, Dad, I'm really sorry. Or I'll go to her and say, Joes, I should have never talked to you that way, and I'm really sorry. Would you please forgive me? And so that's just kind of where I want to go this morning with you for a little bit. If any of you've ever been to a rock concert, I'm the opening act. Okay, this is the main show right here. We're going to talk about behavior training. We're going to do this. But if you look at the fruit of the Spirit, it produces this kind of fruit in our lives: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things. I heard at a conference once, and the pastor was like, go get in trouble by doing those things. And so now I tell that to my kids. Yeah, go try to find a way at school to go get in trouble by being too filled with peace, by being too kind, or having too much patience. Not once have any of my 3 kids, and they've gotten in trouble at school, but it's never been for one of those. But here's the thing. I can work on it as hard as I want, but they're the fruit of the Spirit. And I'm just flesh, and the Spirit lives inside of me. So the only way to get the Spirit is to go to God, the Heavenly Father, and to ask for it. There's no law against these things. So the other thing, I think, when it comes to behavior, how much does God love us? But God showed His great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. And if you're looking for notes on this, that's Vinny. He's the high blue, okay, which means he's follow through. I should have done that. I didn't, okay? So I can get these slides to Vinny, and then he can get them to everybody that signed up. We can do that. Yeah! This guy got my back. That's awesome. God showed His great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. I spent 10 years in public schools teaching, and to this day, how many of your kids, how many of you have kids in a school system right now? Even at home, that's fine. Okay. My kids still have these behavior modification things. Yes, they turn colors, right? You start on a green and you go to yellow or whatever. Or if you get enough money, mini economy things, you can buy things at the end of the week. So from the time they are 5 or 6 going into kindergarten, what are they being told? That your behavior gets you things, right? And guess what? That carries right into churches. How many people have you met that said, man, if I walked into the church, it would fall down because there's no way I'm good enough for God to love me? This is a battle that we have to fight on a daily basis. And sometimes kids think that by their behavior, and when you say, don't do that again, that's a bad thing to do, they transfer that into the way God loves them. But the truth of it is, think of the worst thing you've ever done in your life. The absolute worst thing you've ever done. And God loved you as much in that moment as he does when you go to worship on Sunday morning in church. While you were still sinners, he showed his great love for us. That just rocks my world, and that's amazing. So when my kids are not acting the way I would like them to act, or when I'm leading the middle school small group on Wednesday nights and they just are not paying attention at all and they're doing all their crazy middle school guy things, and I just want to, are you serious right now? You know what I'm talking about, right, Dave? Okay, good. I have to constantly remind myself, man, I have to make sure that I am not teaching them that, man, if you were just a good little boy or girl, that God would love you more. So I just want to also say that to us before we get going. It's really hard as a parent not to attach behavior to love, and it's even harder for a kid to know that difference. So when our kids are misbehaving, Jensen, I'll just give you an example. The kid's in a lying phase right now. Love him to death, but can't tell the truth to save his life these days. Just brush your teeth? Oh yeah, let me see. You did not even brush the toothbrush, not even wet. There's no toothpaste. You didn't brush your teeth. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I did. No, you didn't. So he's just in that kind of phase right now. But I have to let him know, hey, whether you tell me the truth all the time, or whether you lie straight to my face, my love for you isn't going to change. Your consequences will be there, right? But my love for you isn't going to change. The same thing with grades. Layton got a C- on a, my kids are probably can't stand me right now. Got a C- on a science test, buddy. Am I happy with the C-? No, of course not. But my love for you isn't going to change. And I think sometimes I haven't communicated that in my life. I know I haven't, because my kids have told me. So just please understand, we can't get the things of the Spirit without prayer. And let's be careful when we're disciplining in our small groups, in our homes, not to make that transference of, hey man, if you act better, then better things will happen to you, which might be true, but it's not going to change God's love for us. Which, real quick here, define yourself radically as one beloved by God. This is the true self. Every other identity is illusion. That's it. He has one constant stand on you, and it's love. And that's not going to change because of what Jesus Christ did. And it's not going to change for any of the kids that we serve in Kids Hope, any of the kids that you have in Reflectors, or Faith Kids, or at your home, or your grandkids, or your nieces, or your nephews. They are loved all day long because of what Jesus Christ did for us. And then, so just couple of little prayer ideas here. This didn't copy well, that's okay. So I need somebody who's a huge Sox fan here. So if you have younger kids, Sox fans, all right, come on up, please. I need one brave volunteer who's a Sox fan to come on up. There's not that many Sox fans here? Vinny, you're a Packers fan, right? That'll work. Come on up, Vinny. Yeah, that'll work. I don't know why I didn't think of that first, okay? So, when you're talking with younger kids, this is something we did to help kids learn how to read. You would do repeat prayers, or you would do repeat reading with books. So you would read the first sentence, and then they would read the next sentence, right? So we're going to practice a repeat prayer. You have to say everything I say, okay? All right, dear God, please help the Packers to lose every game next year.
To win every game next year.
Clearly the Spirit's not in him as well. But this is a nice way to model, thanks Vinny, a nice way to model just how to pray with younger kids. Just have them repeat what you say, and it can be really super simple. Just like that, or fill in the blank prayers. Today I'm thankful for blank. Or this week I really need help with blank. This is a great way to just get younger kids to get into the habit of how to pray. And you can do these in your small groups. You can't do it at Kids Hope, but you can do it in your mind for them. And you can do it in Reflectors. You can do it with any kids that you have, just as a way to help them pray. I have a group of 8th grade boys on Wednesday nights, and I've asked them, how many of you would like to pray at the end of the night? Not a single hand goes up, because they're not used to praying out loud. So this is a way at a younger age to get them used to hearing their voice out loud to pray and to do some of those things that are there. So there's a fill in the blank prayers. What else does it say on there? Oh, draw a picture. Some of your kids that love to draw a picture or sing a song. There are a lot of great songs that are simply prayers, and you can have them do those as well. And then these are for the older children. So this is, if you're 10, 11, 12, and all the way older, you have to get a lot more creative. What I've learned to do with Josie is just, hey, how can I pray for you this week? And she doesn't have a phone, so we don't text, but if your teenagers have phones or anything like that, just keep it real simple. How can I pray for you? And also be honest. There's times where I've told Josie, hey, I need prayer this week. I have a meeting with Minnie, and he's driving me crazy this week, so I need prayer for patience and kindness. Keep it appropriate. She doesn't need to know everything going in my life, but she needs to know that you need prayer too, or that I need prayer too. So that's a simple way for older kids. And then there are also models for kids. The older they get, how many of you have ever heard of ACTS? A-C-T-S as you're praying. Okay, see a few hands up there. So that's just a way you start with prayer. You give them a model of what it looks like. So in education it was, I do, we do, and you do. So when you give them a prayer model, and you can Google these, just prayer acronym, and there are loads of them. Okay, for our family we came up with PRESH, which is physical. So you pray for yourself physically and others physically, what your responsibilities are. So for my kids, they're students. For Sherry, she's a vet tech. And for me, just the responsibilities we have. Then we prayed for emotional. And then, what was PRESH, P-R-E-S, spiritual, and then our hobbies, things that we like to do. So it was just something they came up with. After looking at some of them, they said, well, we'll do this. Acts is adoration, confession, thankfulness, and supplication. What you're doing when you give them a model is you're just giving them a framework to work within. And then what they can do from there is they can adapt it and make it their own. But that works really well. So if you're leading a small group, or if you're reflectors or faith kids, go ahead and pick one of these. Make it your own. And say, hey, our small group, it's time to pray. We're going to use the ACTS. We're going to use the PRAY acronym. Teach them a model, a system for how to pray, so that as they get older, they can just tweak that and do whatever makes sense for them as they get older. Does that make sense? All right, very cool. This is all you. See, that's all I had. So what I want to do before we keep going is I'm going to pray for us, okay? So Lord, we just want to come before you this morning and say it is all about you, and it is not about us. It's about how you work through us. So Lord, we want to learn today. We want to grow in how to practically do things here, but we also never want to forget that all the power comes from you, and that you are the one doing things through us. And sometimes the answer is you, and it's through prayer. So Father, I just thank you so much for our time this morning, and that we can meet together and learn some things about behavior, and always give the glory back to you when we see things that are happening. So it's in your precious name, in Jesus' name, who died for us and loved us, that we all said. Amen.
Thank you, Philly. Is this my copy? Yes. Thanks so much, Phil. I'm sorry that those slides. Is it too small? It's probably too small to see his. I don't know if you were able to write those things down, but yeah, if those things were too small in the slides, just email Phil. Say, bro, send me a readable size of that. That's my fault. Sorry about that. But thank you so much, and it hits the nail on the head. And I think it's a sweet reminder to start and have that base as we move forward. So I'm going to do. We are all done with welcome in spirit. So we're going to move into expectations, but before we move into expectations, let's take a quick stretch. So if you can stand up. And go ahead, try to touch the ceiling. All right, touch your toes. Just don't look up. All right, trunk twist. Oh. That's pops. Roll your shoulders forward, backwards. Roll your neck from side to side. And then you shake it all out. Shake it all out. All right, you can have a seat. And just so you know, too, of all the days I forgot my watch. Fortunately, there's a clock right there. We'll take a break around 10 o'clock just for restroom and more donuts and stuff like that. But if you need a break at any time, feel free to just get up and move. You're welcome to do that. So I want to start by talking about setting expectations. This is where we're going to start. We're going to dive right in. All right. So one of the first questions to ask in any environment where you are serving, whether it's Kids Hope, whether it's Faith Kids, Reflectors, at your home. What is my behavior bar? Okay? And am I even thinking about the behavior bar? And the behavior bar is, what are my expectations, right? What's the expectation for every kiddo that I'm working with to meet? A couple things to think about with your behavior bar. The behavior bar really depends on two things. Stage of life, and I know Faith Kids, you guys talk about phases, right? Okay, so it depends on stage of life, and it also depends on the environment. So, for example, your expectations for a 4-year-old are going to be different than a 14-year-old, yes? Yes, okay? Because they're in a different stage of life. But secondly, my expectations for a kiddo at the bowling alley are going to be different for a kiddo at school, yes? Okay, so stage of life and environment are two major things to consider when you think about the behavior bar. Now, I'm going to be splattering in some things specific to special needs, okay? And that's really part of the reason that we wanted to do this thing is because we'll have kiddos with special needs in all of our environments. And that's my prayer, and that's my hope, is that we will get more and we reach the community in that way. But with those things, we've got to talk about the group behavior bar, but we also need to talk about individual behavior bar. So when you're talking about kids with special needs, here's the thing. Start with the behavior bar at the age, okay? Age appropriate. I'm not going to lower my behavior bar for a 10-year-old with autism just because he has autism, okay? If he is with other 10-year-olds, the behavior bar is still to act like a 10-year-old. Does that make sense? Okay, now there's going to be modifications and accommodations with that, and there's ways that I'm going to help support him. We're going to talk about that to reach that level. But don't lower the age expected behavior bar just because a kid has special needs. Okay? Make sense?
Vinny, so you're saying, okay, so we have an autistic child that's 10-year-old, you're working with other 10-year-olds here, not supposed to be like a normal 10-year-old.
Exactly. That's where we're going to start. And disability etiquette, first of all, here's my rule of thumb, and I'm sure you all get this, but treat a person their age and assume competency, okay? Those are kind of baseline things. Treat a person their age and assume competency. Now, as you get to know the person, you're going to learn what modifications or what accommodations need to take place, all right? But you start with right there. Now, and I guess let me give an example of what that looks like. Is it appropriate in a 5th grade small group for Faith Kids to hit somebody else? No. So it's certainly not appropriate for a 5th grader with autism or any other disability to hit somebody else. Okay, that's an obvious one. That's an easy one. But as you get to know the person and their needs and their whatever they need, you will make modifications. But starting again, this is just baseline. Okay. Now, when you're setting those expectations, start with do's, not don'ts. Okay. So here's an example. These are, and I'm going to critique myself. These are probably not specific enough. Okay. These are a little bit general, a little bit elusive, but they're simple, and that's really what we want to go for. So these are some of our expectations and reflectors: that people would listen to directions, that they would be kind to others, that they would stay with their buddy, that they would do their best, and that they would have fun. Okay, notice, none of these are don't talk when somebody else is talking, or don't run, or no whatever. There's a big difference when you're giving expectations to make it a positive, something you do instead of something you don't do. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you're setting expectations, make them do's, not don'ts. Keep them simple. Ideally, again, you can do this on a Kids Hope on that one-to-one level, but certainly in Faith Kids or in Reflectors, it can be individual, but ideally for the whole group. Keep them as simple as possible, and I would make no more than 5. And 5 is probably even too much. But what are the expectations when I'm in this environment? What's expected of me? Now, some of you might be thinking, do we even have expectations, specific expectations in our space? And if you don't, that's okay. But I would highly recommend that you think of them, okay? Because here's the thing, we can't assume, I'm going to talk about this in a second. You can't assume that someone knows what those expectations are, especially someone who has only known one thing in their home. Especially when they're up to, like, any kiddo under the age of 5 that hasn't gone to school yet, the only experience they have of expectations or structure is their house. And we all know that that can look all sorts of different ways. So when they're in an environment with other kids and there's a leader and they're supposed to be doing things, one of our defaults, which is a fault of ours, is that we somehow expect that they know exactly what they're supposed to do. Don't assume that. Okay? Give them the guidelines, give them the expectations. Make sure they're simple. Okay. As few words as possible is part of that. So one example would be kind, or maybe even if you want to be specific, especially if it's individualized, keep hands to self, as opposed to, there will be no hitting, punching, slapping, stealing, inappropriate touching, right? So just keep it simple. How can you say what you want to say in as few words as possible? Make sure the expectations are realistic. Again, this is going to depend greatly on, first of all, the individual and their needs. If it's maybe somebody who has any disabilities of any kind. But even for the whole group, it's going to depend on their age, their age category. So the question to ask with every expectation, does this make sense for this group? And is it attainable for everyone? Because if it's not, you're setting them up for failure, okay? So make sure that any expectation you have is attainable and realistic, because otherwise you're setting them up for failure. And make sure that they're clear. When you look at these, there's no guessing what it means, okay? Whatever I put up there for my expectations, that is what it is. It's not gray, it's concrete and it's clear. So pretend I don't know anything, and if you're going to use words like nice or appropriate, you better give me some examples. So when I say, okay, when I'm talking, you need to be attentive, or you need to be nice. And first of all, it's going to look different for everyone. But be specific and give examples of what these things can look like. Here's why I would critique this: this is really, what does be kind even mean? Again, I can't assume that anyone even knows what that means. So before we even start, let's talk specific examples of what it means to be kind. Somebody give me, what's an example of being kind? Anyone?
Nice words.
Nice words, use nice words. What is a nice word?
Please.
Okay, please, thank you, those are nice words. That could be an example of being kind. What else? Sharing. That's good.
Waiting your turn.
Waiting your turn. That's very good. Okay, what are some examples that would be not being kind? Hitting. Absolutely. Insults, using mean words. Okay, so be specific, and again, this is pretty general. But how many times have you said something, and then you see a kiddo disobey, and you said, did you forget the rules? And they'll somehow tweak the rules because they're really kind of elusive, or gray, or kind of wide, but you said this. Oh, I did say that, didn't I? Okay, let's get more specific. So again, don't assume that a kiddo already knows the expectations. How many of you default to this when you are in an environment and you see a kiddo act up? One of your first things, what the heck is wrong with this kid? It happens all the time. It's like he's never played with other kids before, never been to church before, never been told what to do. You know what? It's quite possible. It's quite possible, really. So let's model it, and let's set them up for success. The other thing too, again, specific to concrete learners, and again, especially individuals with autism, transferring learning, you guys know what kind of that means. So like what I learn at school and what I do at school, I have a hard time transferring that to a different environment. So say, for example, some kiddos learn something at school, but because of their concrete learning, they have a difficult time taking those things to a different environment, say church, all right? So first of all, some people, some kids don't have that structure, they don't have that learning. Some other kids, maybe they have it over here, but this is a totally new environment, and they need to learn everything again, okay? It happens. So know that too, and be ready to explain the expectations, and then model the expectations. Yeah, again, be ready to show what these things look like. So, here's the question, and I want you to discuss this with someone next to you. Say we have these expectations. What do we do with them then? Is it if somebody doesn't meet these expectations, do we punish them? Or if somebody meets these expectations, do we reward them? Is it a little bit of both? Does that make sense? Does this question make sense? Okay, talk to somebody next to you. What do you think? Is it both? Is it one or the other? No wrong answers.
Back to the dogs.
There's certain things that I'm not throwing information to them to run away with us and that's when you have to reinforcement if they don't do it. So like and they learn because there's no way when the dogs are out to teach them how to facts and right. So there has to be some, I don't know if it sounds
Yeah, I don't think that works.
no, I don't either. Even discipline.
Yeah, consequences.
Yeah.
You know, which I guess is the same thing.
All right. Let's bring it back. Two things. First of all, did anybody have something that the other person shared that you were shocked by? Like, did anybody say, like, we should give them money? Or did anyone say, we should slap the heck out of them? You came close. Wow.
Like I told Trudy and Kathy, it's like we don't need some parents in the church.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Anything too extreme, you should be careful. Yeah, so one other thing that I forgot to mention. This is one example of just a school that now this is probably more for, say, middle school, but I think it could, apply for elementary school too. 3 expectations, and it's down, they narrow it down to one word. Be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. Now they also have these things, kind of an explanation, but that's kind of their motto. But then they talk about and model what each of those looks like. We are respectful, responsible, and safe. I promise to respect myself, others, and my school. I am responsible for my best in reading, math, and the rest. I promise to be safe by following rules and directions. I pledge to learn all I can do. My best to be all I am. Anyway, just one example. All right, so the conversation that you just had with somebody, really what you're answering is, on this chart, what is the best thing to do when somebody either follows the expectations or meets the expectations, or somebody fails to meet the expectations? I'm sure some of you have seen this before if you've been in the education field at all. There's positive reinforcement and there's negative reinforcement. There's positive punishment and there's negative punishment. So, let me give you examples of what these things look like. Positive reinforcement means that you are getting something. So getting something, it's positive because you did it right. Okay. So I'm sorry. The reinforcement is saying we want you to do that. Punishment is saying we don't want you to do that. So positive is giving you something because you did it right. So for example, give you a high five because you shared. All right. I'm giving you a high five. I'm giving you a reward because you did what you were supposed to do. That's positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, we don't use this one as much, but here's an example. I'm going to take away your curfew because I have such trust in you. You've been proving yourself so well. I'm going to take away your curfew. I'm going to take something away. I'm going to take away that thing that was maybe... okay, so say somebody had a bad streak going on, and they were at school, for example. They were in the teacher's room for recess. But they start doing a good job, and so I'm going to take away that that time that you have to spend with me, and I'm going to let you go have fun. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's negative reinforcement. Okay, positive punishment. I was just reading my son, the Berenstain Bears Learn Their Manners, or Forget Their Manners, And Mama Bear uses positive punishment. If you forget your manners, guess what you just earned? Cleaning the basement, wiping up the bathroom, okay? So it's giving a punishment. Does that make sense? Or there's negative punishment, which is obvious. You just lost your free time. You just lost that privilege. You just lost whatever. Now, let me ask you this. What do we use the most, do you think? Anybody? What do you think is used most? Negative. Both of them? Is there one of those, well, between either reinforcing good behavior or punishing bad behavior, first of all, which one of those do we do most? Punishment. And then of the two, punishment, you think it's probably negative punishment? I'm going to take that away. Or no more X, Y, or Z? Okay. Why do we do that? Hello! Because I can. Because I'm your mom. That's right, because I'm in charge here. You know what? That's so true, though. And I want you to think about this. I don't know, whenever I think about our default modes, so much of it comes down to control. If I take something away from you, that's like I'm expressing my control over you, right? Do you know when kids are misbehaving what they're looking for? Control, right? A lot of times they're looking for that control. And then you end up into this power struggle, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But if this is your only response, you're just, again, you're operating out of the flesh for sure. You know, I just want control. It's all about me, you know. But this is our default. And it's easier. It's easier on the front end anyway, right? You know, if I'm going to reward you with something, that's going to take my time, that's going to take my resources, I'm going to have to really be intentional about that. But if you step out of line, it's really easy for me to say, no more TV today, right? That's easy. And then it winds up into a mess, you know. Some of you have, I'm sure many of you have children, and you've seen it many a time. So here's my word to us. Be positive. Be positive. Our default is to be negative and to punish. But if we can reinforce the good behavior positively instead of punish the bad behavior negatively, we're going to make a lot more strides. And not in oh, look what you've earned, and you only get it when you earn it type of way, but in a way that it affirms who they are instead of continually demeans who they are. Does that make sense? So, the best defense is your offense. And what I mean by that is the best way to minimize negative behaviors is to be positive on the offense. Okay? Because if you set a culture in an environment where it's positive and it's recognizing good behaviors, you will see negative behaviors diminish and go away. All right, so this is a proactive thing. This is my first time making this presentation, by the way, so I apologize for looking down and up if I say okay. Positive reinforcement. Let's talk about positive reinforcement. Again, we're talking mostly specifically about kids. When the kid does what they're supposed to do, when they meet the expectation, do not let it go unnoticed. So, one of the things you can do is, especially if you're working with, say, an individual, all right? There's this one kiddo that really needs support. My first word of advice is ask the parents. 90% of the time, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that the parent is the expert. The other 10% of the time, some of you have probably had those experiences. But our assumption and our default has to be that 100% of the time, parents are the experts, okay? That means that if there's a kiddo who's having a hard time and I can't figure out anything that's going to help this kid or ways, what motivates this kid, ask the parent first. They're the expert on their kid. So ask them what works best. Oh, I'm sorry. And then think about, these are things that you can you can smatter your whole Sunday morning or Thursday morning or whatever, whenever you're working with a kiddo. You can apply these all over the place. So what are some examples of verbal positive reinforcements? What are some things you could say that would be a verbal positive reinforcement? Good job! Yeah. Okay. Here's my word on verbal positive reinforcements. Be specific, okay? Especially with kiddos with developmental disabilities. Don't just say good job. But especially if they did something, be specific and say great sharing. Or I really appreciated those nice words you just used, okay? Be specific. Because that's really good, because that's what's going to reinforce that behavior. You can say good job, it's like, what'd I do? I don't even know, you know? But if you said nice sharing, it's like, oh, okay, I just got recognition for sharing. Okay, I might have to share again, you know? And then physical motivators. What are some things that you can tangibly do to reinforce positive behavior? High five. High five. Phil does it all the time. It makes me feel good. It does. It's like, I matter to Phil. Thank you, Phil. High five, that's an easy one. What else? Fist bump. It's appropriate. Yes. Yeah. So some of it is that physical, but other stuff, tangible stuff. Okay. So say you find out, you ask a parent, this kiddo, man, like when we're doing, this activity, he just has a really hard time. But you find out from the parent that he really loves SpongeBob. All right. So here would be a physical motivator. We're going to do this activity, but when we're done with this activity, you get 5 minutes with this SpongeBob activity. I don't know what it is. A SpongeBob stuffed animal or keychain, I don't know. But something that has to do with SpongeBob, okay? So those are other examples of physical reinforcements. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Oh, okay. Marker, sorry. For a person with special needs and when you're working more one-on-one, here's an idea. But you could do this for a group as well. And I'm just going to draw it because I didn't have time to make a model. Let's see. Here's something you could do, and I would put it right by the expectations as a strong reminder. Actually, do this. For a motivator, what are we working for right now? Okay, and again, keeping in mind what Philly was saying already about it's not all about just earning things, but let me ask you this: why do you go to work? Paycheck. Now, I'll be straight up honest with you. I am here because I love ministry and I love the Lord. But at the end of the day, I'm not spending 40, 50 hours a week here for no money, right? I mean, this is we all make a living, right? And at the end of the day, that's gonna keep us going, and it's gonna help us stay at a place. And hopefully for all of us, it's not the make or break thing, but this is human nature, right? We a lot of times we're going to do something because there is a reward at the end of it, right? Keeping in mind that God loves us even when we don't do it. But here's a practical example of a token system. You guys probably know what a token system is, right? But let me give you an example of what it would look like for a one-on-one situation. And then, I'm going to use one of my students from Elam, and I'm going to call him Johnny. Okay, Johnny didn't want to do anything. Johnny has ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, which literally means he will say no to everything. So even if it's like, "Do you want ice cream?" No, I don't want it. No, this is his default. But it's the same with saying, Can we do this project right now? No, of course not. Of course you don't want to do that, Johnny. So Johnny was an example of a one-on-one token board. So we had our expectations. We listed them out right here. Here's the 3 things we really want you to do, buddy. Really specific. Now, when I see you do these things, you could do it multiple ways. You could say, when I see you do these things, I'm going to put a token right here. all right? And you can do, we use like poker chips and just put Velcro on it and Velcro it right on there. But before we did that, we had him choose, what are you working for, buddy? And for him, he loved bike rides, and we had the space and we had the bikes to do a bike ride. So that was his reinforcer. So we said, okay, let's put a bike ride right there. Okay, so right now we are working for a bike ride. We are working for a 5-minute bike ride. Be specific. Set limits right away. We're working for a 5-minute bike ride. So let's meet these expectations, and then when you get all 4 tokens, you will go on your bike ride. So here's one example. Where did I put that timer? This is $1, and it is worth $1 million. Okay. One way you could do the token, and this, again, I have some really cool stories about this. Say we want to start really simple, and I want to help him understand the concept. I might say, hey buddy, if you're meeting these expectations for 10 seconds, you get a token. Okay. So I'm going to start with 10 seconds. We'll just say 5 because it's going to take forever. Okay, so he's doing his work, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Oh, you did a great job meeting those expectations. And I put a token on. And already he sees that reinforcer, right? He sees it. And then I set the timer again. All right, let's do it again. We had a kiddo with autism in my class at Elam. We started at 30 seconds per token. Within 2 months, he was up to 10 minutes per token, all right? You see what I'm saying? Like, he knew what was coming. He learned that process. Like, okay, I follow the expectations, I earn a token, I earn my tokens, and I get, this, what I'm looking for. So start small, and whether you use a timer or whether you just say, hey, I noticed you share that thing, way to go, buddy. Put it on there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's an example of an individual model, but you could do it for a large group model too. And feel free. Faith Kids, it's like here's our group goals right now. These are our group expectations, and if we're meeting these as a group, keep each other accountable, guys. What are we working for as a group? And maybe it's a dance party. Maybe it's donuts next week. I don't know. But what are they? You can help them own that then, right? Because at the end of the day, Johnny, this was in his control. All right. It was up to him if he was going to get that bike ride. I can't take it away, right? He's working for it, all right? That's in his control. And that's the great thing about motivators. Don't just say like, you're gonna earn this, you're gonna work for this thing. But if they have that ownership, oh man, motivation increases tenfold. Okay. Make sure I didn't push everything. Oh! Before positive environment, I got one more thing here. Talk amongst yourselves. Well, okay, don't talk amongst yourselves. I'm just gonna, because this is kind of rhetorical, okay? What if we treated more things as rewards and privilege and not rights? So, think about television at home, okay? Maybe you're defaulting to taking away TV because the kid thinks they already, like they deserve TV. You know what I'm saying? There's a big difference between that and helping a kiddo understand, like, we have privileges, okay? Your phone, TV, dessert, all that stuff. Like, these things are not, nobody has earned that yet, okay? These things are privileges. And so rather than saying, like, hey, you did a bad job today, therefore you lost TV, to saying, like, we had a great day today, why don't you spend some time with the TV because you did so well. There's a big difference in that culture shift. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's more of a home example, but it's the same principle in whatever environment you're working in. Okay, so don't talk amongst yourselves. But now I have something to talk amongst yourselves. So how do we do this? And how do we do this with an individual when they're part of a large group and not like let down the other kids? Or have the other kids see it and be like, well, how come he gets to jump on the trampoline and I don't, right? Talk amongst yourself. How do we do that? Is it fair? Should we do it separately? Should we let everyone do it? What do you think? Go ahead, talk to somebody.
that's a hard one.
Right away with competition.
My group is a big family, so my parents tried to take us out. So there were times where we got like one-on-one with mom. That was like a big deal. But if somebody did something wrong, and we had to set stuff, and we were all getting
I remember from your story.
You know, the downside of it is that when you get in the real world, it's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
First of all, anybody have stories that pertain to this? Anybody have a real example? Yeah.
Mine was more in the classroom,
Okay.
and I had kids who were coming hungry, and I was telling them, you can't believe it. I used to say, fair is not equal.
Mm.
If
That's
you
good.
need something, I might provide something for you. An example being crackers, right? They would never have this. I'd say, if you were hungry, I would give them to you. Does that make sense? And I would provide opportunities where they would all get something. So it wasn't just that this kid was totally separated out. But
Yeah. I think, Trudy, I think you hit the nail on the head. Did you hear that phrase that she used? Fair is not always equal. I think that's a really good phrase. I guess I won't talk about it too much, but rule of thumb, this is a great teaching opportunity, okay? If you are doing special treatment, it's probably because there are special needs, right? If one thing you can do is a general education for the group, all right? One of the things, just as I continue to learn about special needs ministry, what other groups are doing, one of the most powerful things that I've heard happen at churches is when, say an individual, again, you have to be really sensitive to this, and you have to put the ownership in the person's, the individual's hand and their family. But say when, I'll give an example here. Say if Nathan Burnett and his mom actually led a large group, in Faith Kids, and Nathan could say, "Here's how I was born." Stephanie could say, "Here are some things that really helped Nathan, but here are some things that he has a hard time with, and here's why." What an education, and what an incredible learning experience for the rest of the kids to get it, to build empathy, and then all these special treatments are no longer an issue, right? So you have to be sensitive to it. But certainly if it's just a one-on-one conversation and one kid says, "How come they get this and I don't?" I would have that one-on-one conversation and just very plainly say, "Well, so-and-so has a very different experience than you, or different. They're coming from different circumstances," and just kind of explaining that a little bit. Does that make sense? So you can do that in a large group way, very sensitively and wisely. But I would certainly encourage you to have those individual conversations if it ever becomes an issue. Any other thoughts or questions on that?
I don't know if this is totally applicable, but I'm just reminded of it. I had a situation where I had a young boy who was very smart, and obviously he took a lot and knew a lot of things, and wanted, so he was having some trouble being still and listening to what I was saying as the teacher. He was, shouting out answer, finishing what I was saying, and doing a lot of that. And so I talked to him, at that point, he said, it's my time to be talking, your time to be listening. And then at the end, I waited for an opportunity to present itself where I could pull him in as the teacher. And, we know the strength of children's influences on each other.
Yes.
So to be able to see one of their peers in that situation of being the teacher, I was hoping that it would, they would take away from that as something that, hey, if he can do that, then I can do that too. And, kind of include
That's really good. That's really good. Thank you. All right, let's, I'm going to quick finish this slide, and then we'll take a 4.5 minute break. Positive environment. Some of you might be saying, like, either all I've known is negative environments, or how do we create this positive environment? Well, at the back of your handout, there are 105 ways to create a positive environment. All right, so this handout is complimentary. But I love number one. Shut up a little bit. You know? Like, one of the great things is, like, if I'm not speaking for the kids, right? Or if I'm not continually giving directives, just let it go a little bit. And I will say this, one of the things that drives negative behaviors most is noise, okay? But again, one of our defaults, we want to fix. Again, probably because of our control, you know, internally. And one of our defaults is we just talk and talk. Stop that, don't do that. Why don't you do, you know, whatever. It's like sometimes we just gotta shut up and just let it, give space, give that margin, give that time, and that will help immensely. But anyway, that sounds like negative, so look at the rest of them. These are all great ideas, and I love number 22, 5 positive to 1 negative. Praise small successes. Using timers, using pictures. Yeah, these are all good. So that's your homework for the day. Read those. But I want to, can I get a volunteer? Yes. Come on up here. Emily, take me a second. All right. Oh man, Emily. I'm like rethinking this example.
Oh no.
I feel bad. Are you ready for this? Okay. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw a picture on the board. Anywhere, of anything. Yeah. That looks terrible. What are you looking at? You suck. That's stop doing all those lines. Don't no. Let me do this for you. Oh, that's really nice actually. I didn't even see what she was doing. That's good. Okay. Now, draw another one. That's really great drawing. Wow, is that a bird? I'm so impressed. Oh. I am proud to say that you are my student. All right, now Emily, when you're drawing those 2 pictures, I don't even know if you were listening to every word I was saying, but can you explain it all, how you felt while you were drawing it in the 2 different scenarios?
Okay, so it's harder to keep going when you get negative feedback for what you do.
Yeah. How did you feel?
It's really exacerbating. You brought out my stomach side on this one.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, this one it's kind of encouraging.
Yeah. And you wanted to keep going? You enjoyed it? Okay. Anyway, those are extreme examples. But, you know, my examples with this one they were silly, okay? But that's the environment. Like, how many environments have we been in where that's all it is? Only when she messes up, we say, don't do that, or stop it, you know? Instead, creating an environment where it's just letting it go, and then just saying, being specific, nice beak. All right, thank you. Give it up for Emily. All right. And then here's going to be our segue, and then I'll take a quick break. So this is all good, and this hopefully helps create a positive environment. But still haven't touched the question of what do we do when somebody is acting out, or when somebody is disobeying or not meeting expectations. So we're going to talk about that. But first, go get some more coffee. for a donut, or use the restroom, and I'll call the
Go for
doctor.
it. If I get in there fast, I can get that.